Crossing over to Berlin now, and RT contributor Thomas Penn to discuss this further. Thank you for joining us on the programme today. So as we know, this isn't the first time the topic of Ukraine's potential nuclear status has hit the headlines. What do you make of the timing of this latest case?
I mean, it's interesting now that in this war of attrition, Russia is slowly but surely winning the conflict. And the desperation in Kiev continues to grow. This country can't survive without funding from Washington and funding from the Europeans. So I mean, the worse the situation becomes in Kiev, the worse it becomes for Zelensky. I think the greater the potential for a serious kind of escalation by any means on the part of Kiev, and I think that's what they're going for now at this point.
So in your opinion, what would London and Paris be hoping to achieve, even if Ukraine did get a nuclear weapon or a dirty bomb? How would it, or could it, change the strategic balance in the conflict?
I mean, I think Europe at this point is really desperate to maintain relevance. This has always been really a proxy war between Washington and Moscow from the get-go. But and the Europeans, I mean, have been completely sidelined basically at this point. As we know, a country like Germany has no nuclear weapons, but France and Great Britain, they do have they do have small arsenals, much smaller compared to to those of the United States and Russia, but they do possess nuclear weapons. And if you think about what would happen in the event that Kiev were to obtain a weapon of this type and use it on the Russian civilian population. I mean, the Russian government has maintained quite a bit of patience and Vladimir Putin has maintained quite a steady hand. But if a weapon of this sort were to be used on the Russian population, a weapon that was delivered by Western nations, Western powers, this would, I mean, I think at that point it require a direct, retaliatory response from the Russian government. There's simply no way around it at that point.
And surely, sorry to interrupt, Britain and France must know that in the case of any nuclear clash, the EU nations would easily be caught in the crossfire. So do you expect European countries to put any pressure on Paris and London to cease this potential massive escalation?
And I think that Britain and France in this case are the powers. I don't think that if they were to make the decision to deliver such a weapon, there's not much the other Europeans could do. I mean, Washington certainly could do something, but the other non-nuclear European power, or industrial powers or former industrial powers, whatever you want to call them, I don't think there's that they could talk, but there's not really much real world pressure they could exert on the UK and France if that's the route they chose to go down.
According to Russian intelligence, they say that France and the UK want to mask their involvement and make it appear that Ukraine developed its own nuclear capabilities. Just how credible would such a version of events be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty absurd. It takes, years and years to develop this type of, weaponry and technology in a stable, economy, in a stable country, and Ukraine just doesn't have that, ability, and it's easy to track, through intelligence and satellite, and this stuff has to be moved logistically, and it needs support. You can't just hand a machine gun to a toddler and say, defend the house with this weapon. These things, they take time to develop, and it's easily tracked. So I think that would be quite absurd to then proclaim that they developed it on their own.
Thanks so much for speaking to us today. We've been talking to RT contributor Thomas Penn. Thank you.
Thanks.